Nicholas, welcome to the Family Business Show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Not at all. And the reason I thought it'd be so interesting to speak to you today and why our audience will find it so valuable is not only do you come from a family business background and you are a family business and you're a member of ours, but also you work with lots of families in business together. So I thought it'd be just fascinating for you to be able to share your story and your experience with us today.
Oh, yeah, thank you so much. It has been definitely a journey. I could tell
Yeah.
you that for free. From where I originally started from the family business and what it's become today. So, I mean, way back when my father started an accountancy practice back, I think in 1974, so before I was even born. And just by sheer luck, I'll be honest with you, no planning whatsoever, I qualified as an accountant and followed his lead, shall we say, which is fairly standard, I think, in certain families. But I wasn't pressurized into becoming an accountant. It was just the thing that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Qualified, focused mainly on tax planning, not auditing, so tax planning, property tax planning, and helped quite a few clients save tax. And we still do that today. I mean, it's generally our bread and butter. But the business changed because we also run a family property portfolio as well. So I learned about property as well as in business and accountancy and how to run an accountancy practice. I was running those two side by side, made loads of mistakes as you do in business, and learned the hard way what not to do. So I've gained a lot of experience. It's part of growing up, shall we say? But what happened now, the last 3 years, business moved, so I've completely rebranded the business to Charles Group to amalgamate all the work and services that we provide. But now I'm focusing mainly on family prosperity. So the reason being is because we've helped a lot of clients save lots of tax. I mean, millions of pounds in tax with our planning over the years. Yet a significant amount of our family clients were still losing money outside of their businesses, and it got me wondering why that was the case. And also my own family history. When I learned about my family history, we also suffered from what is known as shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves within 3 generations.
Okay.
So my great grandfather was a multi-millionaire. By the time my father was 8 years of age, the money had completely dissipated.
Right.
So me looking at my family history, I'm like, wow, I'm due to lose everything. We do not want that to happen.
No.
My father worked very hard to build up a business literally from scratch and portfolio from scratch. So what is it that makes families fail? And what can be done about it? And that's pretty much the journey that I've undertaken, moving towards family prosperity.
That's so exciting. And let's just rewind slightly. So when you were growing up and your dad running his own business, did you think that's what I want to do? Or did you think I want to go and make my own way in life?
No, to be honest with you, growing up, I experimented. I wasn't 100% sure what I was going to do, but I just always had in the back of my mind I was gonna study accountancy. It was just the thing to do. It just made sense to me. Not because the business was there. I saw how hard my father worked and how successful he was. I was like, yeah, I want to emulate that.
Yeah.
So there was that. Obviously I've looked up to my father. Was really proud of what he had achieved, and I thought, yeah, I want to effectively do that as well. Also at the same time, whilst being in the business, wanting to do my own thing. So it's caught between almost a rock and a hard place, because you want to follow your family's lead. You want to build the family business, but at the same time, you want to take it in your own direction.
So, and did you work alongside your dad for a while, or how was the transition?
The transition, an interesting one, shall we say? So I didn't qualify with my father. So I worked for 3 years for a top 20 accountancy firm. That was the thing that I wanted to do, just to learn and gain experience from outside of the family business, with the intention that once I gained my qualifications, got my ACCA, which is my professional qualifications, signed off, I was going to move back to the family business. And yeah, been working alongside my father ever since, and it's been a slow transition whereby he has now moved into my semi-retirement. In fact, I banned my dad from retiring completely, because I told him, look, mum doesn't want you at home. And more importantly, this whole concept of retirement, I think, has been just misplaced in the media. It's not this utopia that everyone expects it to be. You can't work for 50 plus years of your life and then just stop.
No.
Because you're just going to kill yourself. And I pretty much told my dad that as well. I said, look, go on as many holidays as you like, do whatever hobby you want to do, but you need to still continue working, because the mind has to work. And he's pretty much accepted that. He comes in whenever he likes, leaves whenever he likes. He's loving life more than ever before. He's got no stress whatsoever. All our clients are looking at him going, "Oh, your father's no stress at all." I'm like, no, he's got the good life, which is great, which I love and I fully appreciate.
Fantastic. So tell me about then, you sort of taking over, your dad semi-retiring. Um, how did you grow that business? How did you become comfortable with that role of leadership, having taken over the footsteps of a brilliant entrepreneur?
It wasn't easy. I'll be honest with you, because you want to find your own identity as well, and that has been one of probably my biggest problem working within a family business, because you want to rubber stamp your own authority, whilst at the same time build what is brilliant. And I've fallen generally in accountancy itself. I've fallen in and out of love with accountancy. So it's all about setting up the structures in place so I can do what I love doing, which is consulting and helping clients to retain wealth and build wealth, much more than doing the bread and butter work like preparing tax returns and accounting, etc. So, but at the same time, you can't completely release the reins of what is the foundation of the business, which is the bread and butter work, the compliance work with an accountancy, just so you can do the stuff that you really want to do. So that's been an interesting conversation, an interesting thought within myself. But I've built now a really good team around me. I've had to learn how to release the reins and to rely on other people to help me, because you can't do it on your own. This is like this misnomer almost, that as an entrepreneur, successful entrepreneurs, you have to do everything by yourself.
Yeah.
Complete garbage. Okay, if anyone's going to learn anything, do not do everything by yourself. You really need to create a world-class team. And families themselves, I when I consult with families, I tell them that they have to build a world-class team to help them grow and achieve whatever vision it is they want to achieve. It's not about just themselves.
Okay. And so you've launched this new business, Family Prosperity, partly because, like you say, your great grandfather was a multi-millionaire. By the time it came down the generations, clogs to clogs and all that, but actually, what you told me before was that it's actually nothing to do with money. So although people know you as a tax practitioner and an accountancy firm, it's actually nothing to do with money. So can you talk us through what you've learned? Because I think it'd be really useful for families out there to understand that they shouldn't be thinking about this in a financial way.
No, amazingly, because I come from a professional background, so I look and I network regularly with other professionals. So when we talk about professionals, we're talking about lawyers, accountants, tax providers, trustees, financial advisors, bankers, etc. And their main focus, rightly or wrongly, this is the way the professional world has been built, is to look after the money. So the accountant will look after the tax of the business, the financial advisor will look after the investments. It's all focused on money. Yet families still fail, and it can't be because the professional advice is rubbish, because that's clearly improved. If you look at the law, has strengthened remarkably over the last 50 years to prevent the dodgy accountant running away with the money. I mean, it still happens, but it's quite rare now. Yet families still fail. And if you look at the statistically, 70% of the world's wealth today is first generation. That's amazing, because I'm thinking, well, general wealth has been around for thousands of years.
Yeah.
You would expect a huge number of the world's wealthiest families today to be like fifth generation, 10th generation, and it's not the case. So why do families fail? So I looked into it, wrote a book on the subject called The 4 Fundamentals of Family Prosperity. And it's essentially, it comes down to a wide number of reasons, of which wealth is not part of it, surprisingly enough. And when I speak to my clients, and I speak to to other successful families and entrepreneurial businesses, you've got to tell them what the actual problem is, and the problem is the actual family itself. So the number one reasons why families fail is because of poor communication. And this is a study that was done over 25 years by a guy called Vic Pricer. And that was done over 25 years, 3,250 families, and they looked at the fundamental reasons why families fail. And so number one reason, poor communication. And when you speak to other advisors, they get it, because like, how many clients have you seen fight amongst themselves? And it's got nothing to do with the advice you're giving, it's to do with the family itself. They implode. Why? Because they don't have the communication structures aren't in place within the family. That leads to emotional conflict, and emotional conflict leads to family implosion and wealth implosion. I mean, Warren Buffett said many times, if you can't control your emotions, don't ever expect to control money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is so important within families. So I'll give you like a real classic example of poor communication is the will, inheritance.
Yeah.
Usually most families will find out about the will when someone passes away. That's the worst time to find out about a will. That's because wills only provide one line of communication. They say the house is going to the daughter, the business is going to the son. I mean, you've seen this time and time again. Yet the surprise of, well, I expected to inherit the business. I thought you were going to get the house. Why did, I wanted this, you wanted that. Oh, this is terrible. And all of a sudden it creates an argument. And it comes down to a lot of families fail because of what I classify as normality bias, the assumption that because everything's okay today, mother and father are alive, they control the business, they control the wealth. So it's always going to be okay. Well, guess what, guys and girls? We're going to die. So I hate to say it, it's inevitable. I think COVID has brought that to light. So you might as well plan for it, and you might as well create structures now whilst you're alive, because once you're gone, you can't communicate beyond the grave. I mean,
No.
Yeah, you might have the strongest faith in the world, but it's very difficult. Okay, and that hasn't been proven by science yet. So now's the time to prepare. Now's the time to be speaking about your family. Even in businesses, who's going to take over? Who wants to take over within the family? Don't make the assumption that, oh, my son's going to do it. I mean, okay, my case, and I communicated to my dad, like I told him, you're lucky because I wanted to take over. He never had that conversation with me. He never had my intention is for you to take over the business. It just happened organically, which is great. I mean, I've got nothing wrong, no problem with that at all. But, I have two other siblings. And now, for the first time ever, we're communicating about the family wealth.
Yeah.
And it was so funny because in order to get that conversation to begin, I had to write a book on the subject. So weird. I wrote the book, gave it to my dad, and I go, here you go, read that. This is the problem that our family has today.
Yeah.
It's extreme, but it had to be done.
So communication, obviously, massive challenge in any family and any business, and then you put the two together, family, business, and poof. So if you can get that right and just start today, just start a conversation today about something. So communication being one of those fundamentals. So what are the others?
So the other is preparing the heirs to receive the wealth. You've got to be what is known as, it's classified as, be a good heir. So what does that mean? Be a good recipient of the wealth. Money given to the wrong person can be really destructive.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, you must have seen that with, the families that you've dealt with.
Yeah.
But I just, the way I explain it is, imagine yourself, you're 18 years of age. Everyone can remember when they were 18 once upon a time. And a trustee that you've never met before in your entire life, brings you a check and it says £10 million, dollars, euros. I mean, the amount is irrelevant. I'm talking a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
You've never earned it. You weren't expecting it. All of a sudden, you're a multi-millionaire at the age of 18. I mean, what do you know at the age of 18? Are you prepared to receive that wealth? And what are you going to do as a result of receiving that wealth? It kills purpose. It destroys ambition in the wrong hands. And if you lack a purpose, then you're going to fill that void with something very destructive. I've seen personally as well as read about it, family members destroying themselves through, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, just general addictive behavior, whether it's, gambling, prostitution. I hate to say it, but it happens time and time again. You've got to prepare the heirs to receive the wealth. Nepotism is another issue. My son's 18 now. He's now going to become the CEO of the family business. Why? He needs to earn the right to become that. And when you speak to really successful family businesses, the children that take over, they started from the bottom.
Yeah, definitely.
Not only did they earn the right to become, the directors of that business, but they gained the respect of the other employees within that business, because they know that they've been through, that they've earned that right. It wasn't just handed over to them because, they're the right gene. They were born from the right family. They were lucky enough to be born in that way. And again, talk about Warren Buffett, even Bill Gates. They believe really strongly in this. And that's the reason why their wealth is going to survive for multiple generations. And we say it time and time again: if you want your family members to take over the business, talk to them now. Talk to them whilst they study at university, and ask them if they want to take. They might have no intention of taking over.
Yeah.
If they've got no intention to take over, well, it's good to find out now rather than 20 years down the line. You're ready to retire, son, daughter, take it away. And they turn around and say, well, I've got no intention of taking, I'm a qualified doctor. I've got my own business. I have no intention of taking over. I know nothing about the business. I don't even like the business. That's the wrong person to give the business over.
Completely.
But how many times have you seen this?
Yeah, lots and lots. Assumptions, non-communication. Yeah, absolutely.
Again, poor communication and not preparing the heirs to receive the wealth. I mean, I've seen families who don't even tell their children how much money they've got. They hide it from them. There's a real extreme example there's a program called the 1%, which was done by a guy called Jamie Johnson from the Johnson Johnson family. And one of his friends found out from the newspapers that his family were billionaires. That's the wrong way to find out that you're billionaires, because they lived a reasonable life. He had no, reason or inclination that they were billionaires, but they were billionaires. And his mates found out the same time he found out when he was at school. So you can imagine how difficult that must have been for himself. Or even worse, find out when the will's read out that guess what, father had £10 million stashed away in some sort of trust fund that you never knew about. That can create a massive amount of problem in terms of even your existing relationships with your siblings or with your partner. I mean, there was one tragic story where husband and wife, they were living normal lives, we say. They're both professionals. They had good jobs, and they were earning, a good amount of money, not huge amounts, but a good amount of money. And her grandfather passed away, and she didn't know that he invested a huge chunk of money in stocks and shares, that when he was going to pass away, would be handed over to her. So her income went from about £75,000 a year to £500,000 a year, purely from the investment income. She wasn't ready for that. I mean, her and her partner ended up getting divorced. They just were not ready to receive that money. She didn't know. And it was a huge shock. And so I tell, families, please speak to your family members and have those conversations and prepare them to receive the wealth. If they're not ready to receive it, then just don't give it to them. Yeah. And if you're not going to give it to them, if you're not going to give it to them, tell them why you're not going to give them the wealth. Or I want to hand over everything to charity. Great. Tell them today, get accepted now so that they're expecting it when you pass away. Yeah. Don't tell them in your will that you've decided to leave everything to a charity and they're expecting to receive that money because they need it to support their family. Yeah. That's not the right time to be speaking to your family members, but it happens so often and it's very, very tragic.
Completely. Okay, so communication, preparing the heir. What's the next fundamental?
Sustainable philanthropy. You look at the most successful families in the world. I mean, the richest family in the world today, the Walmart family, owners of the Walmart industry. And what have they got? They got sustainable philanthropy. They've got a sustainable philanthropic arm to the wealth. Mm-hmm. And what does that do? It creates a purpose bigger than the individual needs of each member. Because once you're of a certain wealth, there's only so many toys you can buy for yourself. So, once you've got the house and the nice car and the nice holidays, okay, you might want to get a yacht, a plane, but sooner or later, it doesn't mean anything to you. No. So you need to create, and what helps facilitate communication is having a sustainable philanthropic arm, because all of a sudden the money's more important than the individual needs, because if the money goes, then whatever that organization that you're supporting is going to suffer as a direct result. It brings the family together. I mean, we're talking family members who've got no interest in tax and investing in the family business, but they love the sustainable philanthropic arm though. They love supporting whatever it might be, whatever inspires the family. It could be, the environment, educating children. I mean, animals, for example, if you're going to save animals, you're going to save the world. I mean, there's so many charities. I mean, I don't want to go into that because there's millions of them, but it's got to be something that, that inspires the family. And again, encourages conversation. What do we want to do with this wealth? Mm-hmm. Who do we want to help? What should be the lasting legacy of this family? And the offspin, if you want to know, I mean, it's inevitable. It provides massive goodwill to both the family business and the family name itself. Completely. So there's one charity that I support, the Paul Strank Charitable Trust, and they provide money for local hospices for children. They're effectively, they're about to pass away. They've got serious illnesses like leukemia. And they support not just the child, but they also support the family to get over the fact that they're going to lose that child. And really, really inspiring, tear-jerking, should we say. but that business, because they're a roofing company, has excelled in their local area because they're the ones who provide assistance to the community, to the hospice, and it just brings that family and brings that family business together. So yeah, have a sustainable philanthropic arm, really, really important.
And actually, even on a much smaller scale. So unfortunately, my great granddad wasn't a billionaire. I didn't read that in the paper. I'm going to go and get checked. I'm going to go and check today though. But even on a much smaller scale, no matter what size your family business, having some sort of, call it philanthropy, call it charity, call it good causes, whatever you want. Actually, it's a great way to get other people involved in the family business. So what we see a lot is, I don't know, Dave runs the family business, he's the CEO. Dave's daughter and Dave's son are both in the business. But actually, his nieces and nephews may have nothing to do with the family business, but it's part of their family, and and they've got an interest in it, but they don't want to work in the business, or they actually aren't capable of working in the business. But actually, that charitable side of it is a great way to get youngsters, people who are on the periphery, partners, all those types of people involved. Whereas, sometimes that can be where resentment builds, where there's sort of two different strains of the family or siblings and their children. And actually, that charity is a great way of pulling people together, isn't it? And like you say, having a purpose bigger than those individuals.
Yeah, exactly. And it brings the family together. It's inevitable because all of a sudden you've got a common cause. You've got a common thing that you all want to support, that you all love, and it's inspiring as well. And now you become indirectly interested in the business because you want to make sure that's successful, so it brings the money so you can support the charity. Whereas before it's I don't want to, with individuals that are not interested in the business, they're not inclined to ask any questions about the business because who cares, they're not involved. But now all of a sudden, if the success of that business is imperative, because otherwise these charities are going to suffer as a direct result. Now everyone's interested in the business and in whatever the family invests in, and the money that's been brought in through both investments and the family business. It just brings the family together, and it's wonderful to see. And yeah, it's just great, and it's not a coincidence that the most successful families, the families that have multi-generational wealth, have a philanthropic arm to their family.
Really. Okay, so the fourth fundamental pillar of successful families, entrepreneurship, and passing down the wealth.
Having aligned professional advisors, have them aligned to the family vision. So it's imperative that the family has a vision for the wealth, a vision for whatever it is that they're trying to create for the money, for the business, a future idea that everyone buys into. And more importantly, you've got to communicate that with your family, with your advisors, with your trusted advisors. Time and again, one of the greatest weaknesses, and you can ask any advisor, is that they don't speak to each other. So I find that staggering. You're helping out a client, your clear intentions are to make sure that that family is successful and the business is successful. Yet the lawyer won't speak to the accountant, they won't speak to the tax advisor, they don't even know who the trustees are, even if there is a trust in there. And you're like, well, how on earth are you providing the assistance that the family needs in order to be successful for multiple generations if you're only focused on the one aspect that the service you provide? So one of the services that we provide, the Charles Group, is we have like an AGM of advisors for the families. We literally have a sit down once a year and we say, right guys, and we communicate the family's vision, make sure the family members are there, communicate the family vision to the advisors and say, what are you doing to support that vision? And how are you, and encourage them to converse amongst themselves, but more importantly, get them accountable. It also helps you streamline your professional advisors, because a good professional advisor would always want to be accountable. They want a platform to show to their family members how great they are. Whereas a not so good advisor, should we say, and they're not all great, I hate to say it, they're not all great, will hide. That's a really good way to find those who want to hide and those who want to be made accountable and show to you how amazing they are, because you want to keep them and you want to siphon off the not so good ones, shall we say, because they're not supporting you.
And I think a lot of families that we meet have quite a transactional relationship with their advisors. So, that their accountant does their accounts once a year and they see their lawyer when they need employment contracts. And you're right, actually, you should be pulling on them because they are brilliant. They've got all this experience and expertise, but they should all be working together on a strategy and being proactive as your advisors, rather than just that literally once a year check-in. It's
Agreed, but the family itself needs to be proactive. Don't expect your advisor to be proactive. Your advisor's busy. They've got their own problems, their own families that they're worried about. If you're, no one's gonna be more interested in your wealth and your family business more than you.
yeah,
No one. I don't care who they are. You can have the greatest advisor in the universe, and they're still not going to have the same interest in your business as you will.
yeah,
So be proactive. Arrange that meeting with your advisor. They're not going to say no to you because they want your business. And then, of course, they're not going to say no to you, and just say, right, once a year, round table meeting. And again, if you can't structure that, by all means, we can help facilitate that, because we know we sit in between the families and the professional advisors. So I know what it's like to be a professional advisor, and also know what it's like to have a family and a family business. So it's good that we fit in between, and the stress and strains of having both, and just get them sitting around the table and just talk and lay out what you've done over the last 12 months, what you're intending to do for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and how are they going to help facilitate that growth within the business, the investments, and how you're going to structure in such a way to, whether it's to save tax, maximize your financial return, and just get them working together. Because great minds think alike. You want great minds in one room, because they all might come out with one idea that could save you millions of pounds.
completely.
And get them working with each other, because they're going to generate business as well. So there's something in it for everyone. It's a complete win-win situation.
Yeah.
Like-minded professional advisors will end up passing business to each other anyway. It's inevitable. They're going to have a relationship as a result of your meeting. So they're going to be really, really grateful that you've brought them on board. Really grateful that you've given them a platform to prove how amazing they are to you. And more importantly, they're going to work together to make sure that they'll help you to achieve your vision.
Absolutely, completely agree. And particularly in these times, there's no such thing as competition. It's all about collaboration. One person's success, that business's success, is everyone's success, isn't it? And I think everyone has to get used to that mindset. Okay, so right, for our audience, I like to think that these videos deliver some real tangible value, some real practical things that people can take away, go away and implement today. So there are a couple of nuggets of wisdom that from your experience of working with families and businesses, that people could go away today and start doing straight away to just build a stronger business for the future and know that it's going to be successful. What can I do today? So
those family businesses, the one thing I'd always say to a family today is it's a strange way of putting it, but have a board meeting with your family. Have set up a time and a place to have a formal conversation with your family members, just so you can create some core responsibilities and duties and start the process of speaking to your family. It's hard. Don't get me wrong. It's not easy. That's why a lot of families avoid doing it. They'll always push it to tomorrow. Tomorrow is never going to come.
Yeah.
Okay, do it now, because you never know. Look, we're in the middle of COVID, for example. You can get run over tomorrow. You haven't got a clue what's around the corner. All we know is today. We don't know about tomorrow. So structure a time and a place. And it doesn't have to take an entire day. Just start the process. Half an hour, an hour, whatever it is. Get used to the fact of having a sit-down meeting with your family. Push all your emotions to one side, which again can be quite hard. Don't get me wrong. And just start the process of saying, right, this is what we do. This is the family business, and bring involved and make sure the entire family is involved. Make sure it's not about you pushing your values to your children, because they're going to push back. Yeah. They're going to think it's just another lecture. You're going to tell me what to do, and I'm just going to ignore you. Yeah. No. Okay, don't do that. That's a huge mistake. Again, a problem that we've had, where the father or mother, that the first gen will say, right, this is the vision for the family, and you're going to do what I say you do. And it's like, guess what? They might say yes now because you're alive, but as soon as you pass away, that vision's going in the bin. Yeah. And they're going to do whatever the hell they want to do. So all families, any family business, get into the habit of speaking to your entire family members of what it is that you do. You don't have to go into too much detail. This is the business we have. This is what it's worth, or what we think it's worth. This is our intentions over the next 5-10 years for the business. These are the investments that we have, and these are our current intentions of how we're going to leave a lasting legacy for yourselves, whereas the children, the grandchildren, etc. Have that conversation today. The other thing I'll do as well, I mean, straight away, is get on the phone with your professional advisors. Get on the phone to them and have a sit-down meeting with them, because you need to bring them together and make sure there's more than one family member at that meeting. So important. I mean, one of the biggest risks we see is we tend to see one family member that deals with all the advisors. Guess what happens when that family member passes away?
Yeah.
It just all goes into the air.
No one knows.
There's a huge vacuum within the family estate, whereby no one has a clue who the accountant is. They've never spoken to the lawyer, don't even know who structured the will in the first place. And trustees, who are they? That's not a good time to be doing that. So get the family members involved and find out. Well, it's also a good conversation to have with your children, like what do you want to do? And then just sit down, shut up, and actually listen to them. Yeah, it's all about getting, what are they inspired to do? What are they trying to achieve? And, as it is hard to be a parent, and there's no magic wand, unfortunately. If there was, I'm more than happy to share it with you, but sit down and listen to your children.
Yeah.
And whatever it is that they do, just let them know that you'll always be there to support them, irrespective of what it is they're going to try and achieve, that you'll always love them no matter what, and that you'll always help to support them, even if they have no intention of running or being involved in the family business. Great. Find that out now, because that will help structure your exit plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Find that today. Don't find that in 20 years' time when you're like, yeah, my son and my daughter, they're going to take over, when they have no intention.
A lot of families are almost scared of sitting everyone around the table because they're worried about what's going to come up and people's thoughts, because actually they know things have been bubbling under the surface for a little while, and it might help. So we run family business discovery workshops where you have an independent person there to make sure everyone has their voice heard. So even if that's us or your accountant or you guys, or having someone there to make sure everyone gets their voice heard, everyone has a say, because sometimes it's just whoever shouts the loudest.
Yeah, I've seen that. Seen that many a time.
And that comes, that unravels eventually. So sometimes there's no shame in saying, right, we need a bit of outside help here. Let's just get an independent person to come and sit us around the table, and hash things out. So I think
it's like having a referee in a football match.
Yeah, definitely.
Someone who's neutral, someone who's independent, to make sure the game flows, or the conversation flows in this particular case. So whether it's, yourself, because you run these events, or whether it's, the Charles Group, doesn't make a difference. If you need help's there. Remember I mentioned before that entrepreneurs can't do it all by themselves. Well, guess what? Running a family, you're going to need help. Okay. It's not easy. It's not easy having these conversations. It can be difficult. It can be difficult to bridge, that gap and make sure everyone's heard and everyone's listened to. Because everyone wants their voice. Everyone lives their life according to their own values. And it's important to find that out now as part of, having effective communication structures in place. It's understanding and appreciating every family member's values. Because if you don't know their values, you haven't got a clue how to speak to them.
Absolutely. Definitely.
Yeah. And never make assumptions on what people like and they don't like.
Completely.
Never push your values on others either, because that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
It happens. We know it happens. But like I said, if your families are struggling to have these conversations, by all means, pick up the phone. Family Business Place is here to help. The Charles Group's here to help. Have an independent mediator. Just sit there and structure the day.
Yeah.
And it becomes a relief, because family members, and I've seen this with my own family, they create stories in their head, because silence is very, very damaging. You make false assumptions based on what you think someone else is thinking and what they're doing.
Completely.
And that builds and that grows over time, almost like a virus. It's horrible. Don't do that. Speak your mind. It might be something really, really silly. And trust me, I've had it in my family, and we had to lay out all our cards on the table, and it was something completely silly, and it was dealt with there and then. You don't want it to manifest and grow. You want to deal with it now, and it's a relief, because everyone wants to be heard. Everyone wants to feel that they're appreciated. So have those conversations. They're so important. Like, don't leave. You've worked 40, 50, 60 years growing this phenomenal business. Why would you leave it to chance? No, when you explain to a business, you say, do you have a board? Do you have a board of directors? Like, of course you do. Okay. Do you speak regularly? Yeah, of course we do. Is it a formal conversation that you have amongst your board of directors? Yeah. And do they then converse whatever it is that that you want to achieve, the vision of the company, and is that conversed further down the line to your employees, your managers, your staff? Of course you do. So why don't you do that with your family? And they're like, should I? Yeah, you should, because you've utilized what you've learned on how to run a business, and utilize the same skill set, a bit softer, obviously, with the family, because once you've created a certain amount of wealth, that wealth in itself is a business. It's the business of being a family. So don't leave it to chance. Not a good idea.
And I've got a phrase that I like to say: you don't have to get it right, you just have to get it going.
Yeah, brilliant. Like that, I might use that myself.
In the diary, book a meeting room, get some dodgy sandwiches in, and sit around the table. You don't have to get it right, you just have to get it going. And I think, families who procrastinate about things, and there's always a distraction, there's always something more important happening in the business. But you're right, why spend 30, 40, 50 years building something for it to, fall apart in the last few months and years when you're trying to exit or hand over the business? So amazing wisdom. Thank you so much, Nicholas. One last shameless plug for you. Go and get your book. Where can people get your book?
I'll just literally go on Amazon or Google 4 Fundamentals of Family Prosperity.
Brilliant.
Just Google it. It's on our website as well, familyprosperity.com, familyprosperity.co.uk. We've got the .com as well. So yeah, just go on our website. We've got loads of freebies as well on our website. I've got a really cool risk analysis. It takes about 2-3 minutes. Yeah. It's an eye opener, because you realize what you should be doing with your family today, because a lot of stuff that you don't appreciate. Take 2-3 minutes, you'll get a free report. Just go on our website, familyprosperity.com, and by all means have a look at our videos, and obviously sign up to the family business place as well. 100%.
Obviously.
Do that.
Thank you so much for sharing that advice and that wisdom, because I've no doubt a lot of what you said today has always been in the back of people's minds, and sometimes they just need a rocket up your backside and someone else to tell you it's okay, let's just get on and make something happen. So thank you so much for your time today, and for being
thank you for having me.
The show.
No, lovely. That was great. Thank you so much.